It is 85 degrees Fahrenheit today, which somehow isn't the hottest it's been. We're at the point of calling that nice weather. Not nice weather to be in a cabin of a car. All right, the carpet's in. And I must say, I think I did a pretty decent job myself. All right, two very quick items to add because I'm in a rush, but I want to show you these. I got this. This is the brand. It's just like a USB extender. These are probably terrible for your car, if I had to guess. It's a lot of stuff to plug into one little cigarette lighter, 12 volt, but I have a bunch of accessories that I'm putting in this car and I need more than one plug, so it's kind of out of necessity at this point. I'll show you where that's going to go. And then I got another thing I'm not super excited about, which are hood risers. And that's just because I want to see what they do. They were $10 and I'm like, I might as well just see. All right, so there's 1,000,001 videos on how these work, but it's stupid simple. It's literally a spacer. Take the bolts out, put the spacer in, put the new bolts in. I think they're horrendous, but like I said, I'm running out of options. So if this is what it takes to get the hood to latch, that's what it takes. I have 2 more surprise parts coming this week, which I'm really excited about. And hopefully they get here soon. I'm going on vacation this upcoming week. It's currently Saturday. Tuesday, I'm going on vacation, so there might be a dip in progress for the car for a little bit, but trust, by the time I get home, all my parts will be here, and then I'll be in a frenzy trying to get back working on it, so. All right, filming's gonna be rough today because my phone is already almost overheating and it's 10 a.m. So it might be a little scarce, but I want to show you what I've done so far. It took me 30 minutes to get this piece of shit on jack stands because of how low it is. I had to basically shimmy the tow hook here, get wood under it, and then just go back and forth until I had room. But today, I am rolling the fenders. Shout out John, the community fender roller. I'm doing an oil change. I'm doing fluid flush in the transmission, obviously an oil filter, piddling with the alignment maybe a little bit, fixing the general toe in the front, and then this striker is kind of weird, so probably bump that a little bit. But other than that, yeah, just doing housekeeping mostly, so might not be too exciting, but we'll see. Okay, it was a long day. Sorry, I didn't film it all because it was so hot, but I do want to show you what I did. So here you go. All right, I was never really all that happy with the fitment in the front since I had to raise it. So I realized that I think the biggest issue was just there was a lot of gap here, but more like in to out, not as much up and down. Because the car does sit level, it's just the front arches are cut higher. So I put actually you can see it right there, the 10 mil spacer on top of the 25, and now the gap is much better. I also rolled the fenders, which there are a million videos online about how to do this, but got them pretty flat so they won't rub. With the stretch I'm running, they kind of tuck up in there nice anyway, so not a big deal. I also got rid of the center caps because I like the look without better. That's just a personal preference, I don't know. What else did I do? Those were the 2 big items, honestly. I just got a bunch of stuff at the hardware store that I'm going to try to use. Well, one thing I got was silicone for the sunroof. I'm going to take the tape off and put silicone there instead because I'm not going to fix it. It's just too much work. I got these, and I'm going to try to use these here, either on this nut or here, or replace this, or go off the bolt hole here up and over to try to hold support on the bumper. And then I'm probably just going to put a quick release like right there so it's not all that noticeable into here, just so the bumper is really easy to take on and off. Short update, sorry there wasn't a ton of filming. It was like 100 degrees today and my phone would not have made it, so it also wasn't all that exciting work, and I was really tired. Oh, I did an oil change too. I did the car's first oil change. So again, stuff that you guys all know how to do, and that isn't all that exciting on tape, but the stuff that still needs to get done. So that's where we're at. Yeah, I might film myself siliconing the sunroof, but we'll see. All right, I had tape here so it wouldn't leak, and it left all of its residue behind, which is really annoying, but it's also really hot today, so I think that's gonna probably be in my favor because it looks like most of it's kind of just like rubbing off. So I'm gonna try to rub it off before I use degreaser on it, just because degreaser can get gross. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna rub it off. It's coming right off. It's just gonna be annoying. Might have to use degreaser on the paint side though, because that's not quite as easy. Luckily the car is getting wrapped, so that's getting scuffed anyway. Clean all this up. I'm gonna run a bead of silicone right around the crack and call it a day. Okay, in hindsight, shouldn't use my fingers. Got great rug burn on my fingers, but it's off, and that's all that matters. Probably gonna worry about the paint side another day. Honestly, I think if I use a rubber eraser wheel on it, it'll just come right out. So, and then gonna wash. I'm gonna clean the rest of this shit off from caking up under the sunroof cover, and then silicone, which is really easy. I'll show you. I'm sorry I don't have my tripod with me today, so this is kind of a weird angle because you're propped up on the roof. This is just Permatex, so pretty cheap stuff, really easy to work with. It's whatever that number is, and I'm just basically putting it in the crack. So it's got one of these kind of caps. Press it in, twist it, opens the tube. Screw the nozzle on, and then these are the kind that you have to cut the end on, which isn't great because it kind of makes, they're supposed to be reusable, but they kind of end up becoming one use because of the way the caps are made. I try to cut it at an angle. I did not even make it through the plastic. I try to cut it at an angle so that it's a little bit easier to lay down. So kind of like a 45 there. And then yeah, I'm just gonna there's not a lot of science to this, and this is not really probably necessarily the right way you should be doing it, but it is what I am resorting to because I will never find another OEM rubber sunroof gasket for this car. So it is becoming a forever gasket now. All right, it's a new day. Back out of the car. I wanted to show you something I got. These are really cheap. You probably already know about them. They work really well. Basically, it's just a captive spring-loaded like bearing style push release, and these go in it. Nice sturdy hold, and when you want to release it, you press the button in the middle. There's a spring in there. Is to get these installed, you might need one of these drill bits. If you don't have a huge drill bit, these are probably the easiest for this style of installation. But let's get them up off real quick and I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, so basically we're just gonna drill a hole in, I'm gonna try to get into the trim area so that you can't really see it very easily, and then mark where over here it's gonna go. I'll probably have to remove this, although it looks like it wants to come off anyway. Okay, cool, that's easy. This is the traditional mounting style of the car, and it usually has another plastic piece that goes inside this. It bolts here, and you can see it kind of has like rails on it. So the front bumper basically like slides and then locks. I don't know, it's a very odd design. These are really hard to find. They break because they're old. And it makes the bumper really difficult to put on and off. And for a car this low, the bumper needs to come off easily. So I'm going to take this one off. You can see it's held by screws. I also wanted to, I already talked about this, but I made these brackets. I put these L brackets on here on this OEM piece. And they actually happen to line up with this area, like that tab in particular, perfectly. So it kind of just rests on there, and it kind of holds it up to the light. So that was probably best case scenario. So if you don't know how to fix your saggy bumper, this might be a really easy fix for all of like $2 in 10 minutes if you have some extra 10 mils sitting around. But yeah, all right, I'm gonna start measuring and doing the boring part, and then I'll show you the fun part. Okay, check this out. This doesn't happen much to me, but I've had a very good thing happen to me. So it just so turns out that if you remove one of the two bumper bolts, the thread pitch of the rod for these quick releases is the same as the thread pitch for the bumper, which means I'm gonna be able to basically just throw this in an existing hole, run the lock nut down on top of it, and put the connector bit on the bumper like that. Is that not a great coincidence or what? Okay, so it wasn't perfect, but worked with me. Basically, I had to run the bolt on the other side behind and this one so that it wouldn't fuck up the threads in there. And then bent it into an S because the mounting point's a little bit lower. The important part is you want this piece at the end to the ball knuckle to be straight so that it can feed into the clasp mechanism here. But then, okay, this is hard to do with one hand, but I'll do my best. There you go, it's on. And when you want to release it, you just press the button in and pull, and it comes off like that. Gotta go do the other side, and then I'm tightening down both sides. Weird.
One day later.
Okay, sometimes you just gotta start hitting stuff because there's tension in weird spots. So I had to hit the fork on the top to loosen it, but this is the bolt that goes through. They're special, so you really don't want to break them. They're ribbed down the middle, and then they're pretty big, and they're grade 10. These by themselves are actually worth a decent amount of money, so be gentle with your threads. And specifically, these look actually really good, but when you're pulling it through the bushing, you want as little tension on it as possible because you don't want to scuff your threads pulling it out. All right. So now the fork is separated. You can see this usually seats up here. We're going to basically just tap that until the fork comes off and then drop the nuts on top to drop the entire shock. forks loose. Time to hit the top one. There's really no good way for me to give you a view of this, but they're right here, kind of beside this fuse box. And if I remember right, yeah. I was gonna say, I remember being able to get these. The ones you can't get to without taking the fuse box off are the upper control arm one. All right. Ooh. Shock. There's our shock. There's our fork. And you can see right there. Oh, come on, focus. Yeah, there's where my axle's binding. Shenanigans. The issue is that the fork is rubbing my CV because of the length of these. Here's a stock fork for comparison. You can see that they're significantly shorter, probably by about an inch. And because of the geometry of the car, that's obviously like dropping this by an inch makes the car lower more than an inch, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to try to do, a lot of guys run these. These are great. These are MPC drop forks. They're really high quality. There's a lot of reps of them out there, but these are like the OG. These are the good ones. So if you're going to get drop forks, get MPC. But that being said, it's kind of a replacement for shortening your spindles. Basically, any guy that's going like really low is going to tell you that there's no real replacement for shortening your spindles and correcting your geometry. So what I'm going to try to do today is two things. One, I need to measure the length of the shock, coil, and the fork now, so that I can count for the height loss, or gain rather, in the new fork. And then we're also going to put new springs on. These are Swift 30Ks, so they're a significant, probably like 3 times stiffer than the ones that are on there right now, just so that I can try to save my oil pan. So that's the two things. I need to mark the length of the shocks first so that we have that. So what I'm going to do is there. We've got this. I basically have a diagram of the exact height and adjuster lengths of each piece of the coil. I'm going to take them apart and put the new springs on, and I'm going to try to account for the fact that these springs have some compression and droop. Even though I have them set to a pretty high preload, these are going to have a lot less droop in them. So I'm going to probably put these, let me think, this would compress a little bit, so I could probably put these a little bit higher actually than what these are set to. But the first step is disassembling the coilovers, so we're going to do that now. Alright, springs off. There's our baby shock. Try to keep the weather stripper on. There should be a zip tie around that, I think. So I might zip tie this while it's all torn apart. Alright, let's look at our springs. Here's our Swift, here's our stock. Swift is like ½ inch shorter, it looks like. Might have a little bit bigger. No, I think they're the same. They both look like they're 65 inner, but they're definitely, one's a little bit shorter, one's a little taller. And other than that, you can see the Swift, the material is actually a lot thicker. So I'm gonna make sure that our plastic stoppers up there, these don't really have a right way and a wrong way up and down, but the logo is on one way, so I'm gonna try to keep it like that. All right, there's the spring. Here, our little centering collar. Now on these, I'm not gonna put a ton of preload on them because they're so stiff. They really shouldn't need much, if any. All right, like I said, not a ton of preload because you really don't want to stress the shock out going up. I'm literally just setting it so that I can't really twist the pieces independently, and so the spring doesn't rattle around, because there's a little play at the top, but nothing that's going to cause an issue. Up next, we've got one lock ring. More lock ring. Now, I'm fully anticipating needing to spin this thing basically all the way down to account for the distance that we're going to have now with the new fork, but I guess we'll see. I'll measure here in a second, see what it comes to. Because, I mean, the spring being shorter doesn't really change anything, because the length of the shock is the length of the shock. Like, that, you know, can operate independently, so. I'm also hoping that this might fix my horrible geometry and make my toe in the front chill out a little bit. But we'll see. All right. Need a stock fork. So now, basically what I'm doing is, I know that my top hat and my lower mount point need to stay the same to keep the overall distance of the shock the same. So I'm just gonna play with the adjuster until it looks like it's gonna sit in a spot that makes that all feel the same. And honestly, I think I nailed it first try. I don't know how. All right, now it's just time to put everything back in the car. So I'm gonna see if I can just do this really quick, and then I'll show you the adjusting process, because putting everything back together is the opposite of taking it off, and it's the same. So I'll see you when it's done. Okay, I'm out of the car again. Obviously, you saw in the last video, the height was really bad. And that's mostly due to the fact, oh, sorry, I'm jacking the car up as well. But that was mostly due to the fact that we put the stock forks back in. Don't worry, I have a solution for everything. And my part came in, and I can't wait to show you what it is. Okay, so the big issue as to why I couldn't get my ride height right was because the fork that we put here was longer, right? It was taller. The stock one was, or the aftermarket MPC one was shorter, but it was hitting my axle. So we had to find that space elsewhere. The ride height is already maxed out. This is the bottom of the shock, and it's bottoming out. So I can't adjust the ride height any more than that. So a lot of you would think, okay, well, adjust the spring. If we move the spring down on the collar, that effectively lowers the ride height. But it's because right now the shock is at its full travel. If we change where the spring sits on the shock, when the car is fully compressed, the shock is going to already be, say, to here. If the spring is lower, it's going to be compressed partially. You don't want that, because if you hit a bump, wow, I'm bleeding. That's cool. Demonetized. If you do that and you hit a bump, the spring can actually free ball for a second, because if your shock can travel higher, and it has the ability to once the car is deweighted, or if you jack up the car, say, the spring can free float, and that causes a lot of bounciness. This is a mistake that a lot of people make when they're first setting up their coilovers. So the solution to that is this new part. These are MPC extended top hats. So right now, you can see the difference. The shock ends at the top hat right now. If we install this, everything stays the same except where the shock can travel. So this is going to add probably about 2 inches of shock travel, which allows us to drop the spring lower on the perch and the shock to always be topped out while it's in the top hat. So we won't have any spring free play, and I'll be able to lower the car a little more. So I'm going to put these on, or I'll show you how to put these on real quick, and we'll get going. Okay, Band-Aid acquired. I'm good now. What I was saying is, basically, if you compare these two, one allows the shock to extend much further past the top hat. That doesn't inherently lower your car, but it does let you effectively droop your spring lower, and then the gap that you would have at the top. If I lowered this collar down, I'll show you, but if I lower the collar down, droop the spring, I have gap with this top hat. That gets eaten up with these new top hats. So while it's not a direct relation of the top hat being able to lower the car more, it is a byproduct of it, if that makes sense. All right, so now we have dead space, right? Up here, we've got about a 1/2 inch of dead space. That's great. I can probably take one of these collars out now, if I'm being honest, and just use it as a ride height adjuster solo. All right, we got this. My spring is all loose, right? If I put it in the car like this, the shock would compress under the weight of the car and seat in the spring. But if I hit a bump and the car deweights, the spring also deweights, and then I come slamming back down on that whole setup. That can not only damage your spring, it can damage your shock, it can make the car ride really bouncy. So the remedy for that, and it's gonna take forever to come back up now because it's set to full stiff. The remedy for that, well, I'm gonna take this lower perch off while I'm talking, is to extend your top hat point. Now that the spring's loose, we don't have to be scared of the preload that's set on this. You need an Allen key to get into the stud on top, like this, and then you need a wrench around it. So put the wrench on first, and then Allen key. And then you pray at this point, honestly. These are usually not set crazy stiff, but they're usually stiff enough that it kind of sucks. Let's see, top nut comes off like this. I have a washer here, I think. Oh, maybe it's part of it. Okay, there you go. There's the top hat. So this should be yet another good example of what's happening here. Top hat comparison. And you can see based on the base plate where the mounting positions change. So top hat's off. These come with all new bushings. So make sure that fits. One goes in the bottom, one goes in the top. I think that sounded bad. There you go. And now I can, well, I guess I should free spin my spring down first, so we'll do that. Great, so, oh, just kidding. And then you want to leave yourself enough that this nut can lock on the top, obviously. First step of tightening this down. I don't know the torque spec on this. You can look it up. I'm sure someone has it somewhere. For me, it's just going to be until I'm confident that it's tight. I put it all back together and there's still a little bit of play in it, so now is a good point that you can loosen these back up and readjust the top hat to be comfy. Reset your set screws. All right, now what I am going to do is I'm going to put this back in the car and make sure the height changed, and if it did, I'll take it out and show you the difference. Okay, so it worked, and now it looks really stupid, but I'll show you. Hold on. All right. There's the front, there's the rear. It's sitting like that because the front right is still jacked up, like, you know, on the other suspension, other top hats. But you can see now, here's the top hat now. Here's the top hat before. You can barely see it. It's right there. So by doing this, we gained a lot of height drop, and because of the 30K springs, I can basically stand on the car and nothing changes. So it looks a lot better. I'm gonna put the other one on now and see if this changes. That'll change for sure, and then go from there. All right, I'm running out of daylight, but I wanted to just update you. I got the other one in and done. It went a little bit faster than the first one, thankfully. And I want to show you something. So this is kind of a good sign, is that when the car is off the ground, the wheel isn't drooping a lot. That's also super indicative of spring droop. So you can see that's fully off the ground, and that's the ride height we're at. We're not going to lose a ton because of the spring stiffness. I was aiming to get it to about there, to get the fender to sit there. It might be too much. And if that's the case, I might have to do this all over again and put that one more of those rings back in, the lock rings, which is fine. But this is just to see how low we can get it first, and then we start adding. So I'm gonna take out the jack stands and give you another preview of the ride height. Yay! Okay, I let the car settle a little bit, and I've determined that I will indeed need to put the lock rings back in, and that's okay. This is kind of why I did this. I wanted to see how it would look when it would settle, so let me show you. I don't even think I can get off the wood anymore, and yeah, my subframe's literally the same height as the 2x, that's touching the ground. So yeah, I'm gonna have to put those lock rings back in. Basically, if I put the lock rings back in the on the bottom, I'll just get a little bit of height out of it. But damn, it looks good like that though. Sheesh. All right, good morning, you freaks. It's a big day for the Integra today. We're getting an alignment, which is going to be interesting. More on that later. I found a shop that supposedly, hold on, it's loud. I found a shop that supposedly has a flush in-ground lift. So if that is the case, then we shouldn't have any issue. But we'll see. Okay, so I didn't get to put the skid guard on yet. Now, with that being said, the skid guard is like mostly for things that stick up in the middle of the road, so they don't like basically go under my subframe and hit the pan that way. The pan is above the frame rails, so there's not really any way for it to get hit if it's like a bump straight across the street or like a speed bump or something like that. So I didn't get a chance to put it on yet. I'm still cutting it up and drilling it. So we're kind of gambling that we can make it to the shop. It's like 30 minutes away down a back road. I drove the road yesterday just to look at it. It looks like it's okay. So there's a couple spots that'll be interesting. I've never really had the car up to speed either. I think the fastest I've gone is like 30 in the neighborhood. So we're just praying that my eyeball toe adjustment is good enough to get it there. And yeah, that's kind of that. But I think it'll be okay. I have no reason to believe it won't be yet. Everything's back on the car. Everything's tight. Car starts now, knock on wood. So yeah, I'll bring you guys along for the drive. All right, here we go. What's the worst that could happen, right? I love you. vibration's not as bad as I thought it would be, and it doesn't pull somehow. It might be because there's so much toe in it doesn't pull, but shockingly surprised. No crazy smells yet, no burning. I think the brakes are chirping just from surface rust, but I already verified the axles aren't binding, so. And we're getting flown by because we're on a road that's 65 and I'm going 60 because I'm scared. The only part that's going to be bad is there's one bridge gap. Actually, there might be two, but these two on the highway are the only ones I'm nervous about. After that, it's basically a flat back road all the way there, so we'll see. Honestly, not that bad. We scraped a little. I'm driving the 1992 Integra that I bought for $700. Actually, I'm driving it very close to where I bought it from. I would really like to do an episode with the original owner, so if that's something you want to see, let me know. But we're going to get an alignment today, and I'm very excited. So far, no issues. I just pulled in. We're going to go say hi and get the inspection done. Or alignment. Ew.
Oh, and I apologize for the music selection.
All right, so the alignment was successful. Somehow I eyeballed almost perfectly squared camber on this car. No idea how I did that, but I basically did that. And the toe was pretty off. We actually had, I think it was, I gotta look back at my photo, I think it was actually toe out by the time I adjusted it, but it wasn't hateful. And it drives good. Ooh, I had to go and say something. It drives pretty good. The only downside being that obviously with the camber it's going to be kind of funky, but other than that it doesn't pull, and more importantly it won't eat my tires entirely. So great experience with Maryland Motor Works. If you have a low car and you need an alignment, I highly recommend it. It's going to be a little more than like the average. I think normally it's like 150 for an alignment. I was out the door with like 250 area, so a bit more expensive, but if you have a car that's annoying to get on like a lift situation, it's absolutely worth the premium. So another one of those kind of instances of like pay to play. So but yeah, no, Joseph there was great, as you saw, and they have a lot of really cool projects going on. I hope we get to go back and say hi again sometime soon. They're doing a lot of drifting, so if you like that kind of content, definitely give them a follow. I'll tag their Instagrams in the description of the video, so make sure you go say hi. But yeah, so Cars Aligned, that's a big item off the bucket list. And I didn't talk about this much earlier, but the HOA is actually really upset about this car, which I guess shouldn't be a huge surprise to many of you. But yeah, so I'm kind of undergoing a bit of a disagreement about the car. They're saying it's gonna have to pass. Basically, they're saying I can't work on it in the street, which I've been doing because it's too low to make it in the garage. And they also mentioned that it should be street legal, which is obviously a loose term given that they actually reported the car to the local police. They came and looked at it. They told me it was fine. It's registered and insured and operable. So yeah, I don't really know what's gonna happen after that, but that's kind of one of the things that we're dealing with behind the scenes. So if the area with where we're working on it suddenly changes, if the scenery changes, that's why. It's because I can't work on the car where it is anymore, which is really annoying. And one of the downsides of living in an HOA, I'm very anti-HOA as a whole. I'm just very anti not people telling me what I fucking can and can't do. So my other HOA buddies will understand where I'm coming from with this. But I hope you enjoyed. This may be either a blip in the video, or I might add it to a video, or I might just make this a standalone video, because there really hasn't been much footage of me actually driving the car. In fact, this is by a long shot the most miles I've put on the car. So pretty cool to just be out on the weather is beautiful. It's like 70 degrees. It's sunny. There are clouds. There's breeze. Out enjoying the car, and yeah, it's nice to feel the accomplishment of something that I've been working on for the last probably about 2 years. So I'm really appreciative for all of you being here to watch and follow along the way with this project, and I'm glad that a lot of you like the car. I know a lot of you don't like the car, and I'm sorry, but like I always say, there's a lot on the channel to watch if you're not into stand stuff. We've got a lot of track stuff, a lot of drifting, so hopefully there's something for everyone here. But all that being said, I'm gonna get this thing home and eat lunch because I'm starving. So until next time. All right, what's up? Status report. We sanded the whole car a lot. We degreased the whole car with Dawn Blue, and now every panel we're wiping with isopropyl. I just have 70%, and we put it in a spray bottle. So sprayed the panel, wiped it down.